Tim Pool seems to have a little issue going on his show. That anti-Semites keep showing up there, saying anti-Semitic things. And, you know, credit to Tim Pool. He keeps saying, like, hey, don't say that. But it's almost like at one point, you know, if you find that you have too many anti-Semites getting on your show, maybe you should talk to your booker, or, you know, like...
Do you remember that Onion article where it's like all these homosexuals keep sucking my cock?
Yeah, there is equality. It's like, how is it that all these anti-Semites end up on the show? Who keeps letting them in here? But here is... And this guy, I have to say, too, like, it's his sidekick, Ian, who... has always seemed to me to be somewhat reasonable. I guess everybody has their character flaws. This one that he has decided, like Ben Shapiro, the Pope of the Jews, like also, I mean, you hate to bring this up because it always becomes like, oh, you're being a little reductive. Like the Nazis, when they made the distinction between the religious Jews and the cosmopolitan Jews. But well, let's let this guy explain, and then I will weigh in on what I know about. And I'm not a scholar of Judaism, but I do know a thing or two about it.
I was thinking about this as like for the long term, like where is this along the path of humanity when we look back in 1,000 years? Like what was happening right now?
Okay, pause it for 1 second. I just want to be clear on what he's talking about, that people are going to be looking back on in 1,000 years.
They call him Moon Lord.
They're going...
It's
he's
the Tim
referring to
parody of Joe Rogan, by the way, but keep going. Just embody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's referring to Kanye West's sort of implosion. In 1,000 years, when we look back on the Kanye West implosion, right, you're going to have somebody who's like deep into, like, they're going to be studying. They're going to
have college dropouts. And forth.
I'm doing my 14th PhD thesis as a scholar of the year 2022. That's what my expertise is. And the 14th PhD thesis I'm doing in that field of study is about Kanye. And so that's one
backpack rap.
Let's go.
I was thinking about this as like for the long term, like where is this along the path of humanity when we look back in 1,000 years? Like what was happening right now, and what will they remember it happening? I think what's happening is, crazy it is Kanye's waking up a bunch of Jewish people and pointing them to God. Like last night on that Gavin McInnes interview, I'll explain it. Gavin was like, I don't know
about that one, Ian.
Yeah, Gavin's like,
that's Nick was Tim Pool saying, like, I don't know about that one, Ian. Like, wait a second. You can hear somebody just go, not just Matt in the studio here.
Tim Pool immediately goes, what?
Yeah, we got to go all the way back. I mean, it's going to take a while for us to get through this video.
I was not expecting that.
1,000 years from now. Oh, that was the great Jewish awakening that took place in the year 2022, that brought about by Kanye West.
A lot of Jewish people did like Kanye's work, so
there you go.
I was thinking about this as like for the long term, like where is this along the path of humanity when we look back in 1,000 years? Like what was happening right now, and what will they remember it happening? I think what's happening is, crazy it is Kanye's waking up a bunch of Jewish people and pointing them to God. Like last night on that Gavin McInnes interview, I'll explain it. Gavin was like, I don't know
about that one, Ian.
Yeah, Gavin's like, because Nick was saying, oh, there's the cabal, or they were saying there's a cabal of people that are preventing Kanye from, you know, getting to another echelon of wealth or whatever. There's a cabal, and Kanye's like, it's the Jewish people. And Gavin was like, I don't think they're Jewish. If you don't believe in God, you're not Jewish. And it's something I said last week too. So Gavin, if you're listening, hell yeah, dude, nice one. And it's true. And
No. That's not true.
Let me finish.
I understand, but I want to like, if you make a point, just explain. If you make like 12 points in a row, we can't address all of them. It's called the Gish Gallop. So you said a few things right now that I think need to be addressed. One, you can be ethnically Jewish and not religious.
Yeah, well, I think you need a different word for that.
Okay, well, that's an important thing to make.
It's like saying the word means two different things. It's nonsense. The word means something. What does the word mean? What does Jewish mean?
Okay,
let's define it and move on. You know, give me two definitions.
So you can say religiously, or you can say ethnically. Then, right?
Well, I'm just talking about the word. What does the word mean? Let's be specific. The word means that you're Jewish, meaning what? That you're a Jew, meaning what? That you believe in God. That's a tenet of Judaism. That's like the tenet.
I'm pretty sure we have people here who are ethnically Jewish.
Their parents were, like, if your great-great-grandparents were Jewish, then that doesn't mean that you are. You got to believe in it. It's a process. It's like an understanding. My thoughts are that what's going to happen is people are realizing, like, if you're a fallen Jew, if you like no longer believe in this and you're just this atheist taking advantage of people, you're going to realize that God is great. That it's like, it's there for all of us. So we're all in this together. And I think that what's happening is there's going to be a revelation within Judaism and probably all the major religions on earth, that there's going to be some sort of a transformation where people come back to the faith. And Kanye will be looked at as someone that saved the Jews.
A reformation.
Yeah. I just have to say, Ian,
because he returned them to God.
I think this may be one of the most insane things I've ever heard you say.
Sure, man. I'm talking about...
Honestly, like,
good for Tim Pool.
Well, yeah. I mean, honestly, like, you know, we've watched this guy Ian on the Tim Pool show for several years, and everyone, like, not only is Tim Pool right, I actually am worried for Ian that I think he's going through an episode.
Well, I mean, he seems like very flustered at the idea that the word can mean two things. Don't tell him about homonyms, or he might start crying.
This is just like when it's like, what's a woman? And it's like, well, cis women and trans women. Like, no, I mean, like, we have to break this down. Like, this word can only mean one thing.
Can only mean one thing.
Well,
can only compute in my brain as one thing.
To be fair, there has been probably, maybe at this point, 1,000 years worth of writing by Jews and Jewish scholars as to what constitutes Jew. I mean, there's been many books written about this, famous Jewish philosophers. What constitutes a Jew? Is it a religion? Is it a civilization of people? Because when it started, there, you know, Abraham to say this is a religion, you were like a member of a tribe. Like, literally, there were 12 tribes. It is not a settled question. It will never be a settled question. Ian does not have the answer, nor does Kanye.
The Ye Testament.
There are rabbis. There are madracha, which are just considered Jewish teachers who have the ability to marry and perform much of the Jewish rituals. And there are entire sects of Judaism that do not believe in God. And I would also argue that there's probably a lot more Jews who believe in God who just don't really practice a lot of Judaism than there are Jews who are atheists, although none of that is relevant. There is no Pope of the Jews. There is nobody who gets to decide. In fact, in Reform Judaism, there can be matrilineal and patrilineal, inherited Judaism. In Orthodox Judaism, they don't recognize patrilineal, even though the first Jew was a guy, Abraham. It wasn't Rebecca or Rachel or Sarah. It was Abraham, according to the Bible. But they changed it basically when the Romans came and were trying to essentially rape Jews out of existence. And
you're just giving us all this context because you have not been touched by the hand of Yeh.
Well, then the funny thing is he's using things like revelation and reformation.
Yes.
And these are all Christian terms.
Right.
He's imposing on Judaism.
And Kanye's a Christian. That's part of the bigotry as well. He's a religious fundamentalist. So
but this distinction of the cultural Jews and the religious Jews has been a long-time anti-Semitic trope. Now, he may not be aware of this. It was certainly employed by the Nazis, and he may not be aware of it, but he's utilizing it in the same way.
Yes.
He is saying, we're not criticizing all Jews, just the ones with the Jewish last names, like Crowder said, who are controlling all the cabal, who are keeping
who there are
Kanye
questions about.
from achieving his full yayness, I guess. And so it's fascinating. And Tim Pool's got to keep asking, like, why are all these anti-Semites keep showing up in my studio?
Yeah. Well, we should be comforted knowing that this segment will be included in the dissertation written 1,000 years from now about Kanye, and you can be a part of history.
There we go.
This is
when history looks back on this, they're going to look at the YouTube
Right.
shows.
I like the idea that like Jewish people, like New Testament now, but Kanye on a long form podcast with minimal interruptions where they're able to really develop their thoughts. That's the medium that we really needed
Yeah.
to bring Jesus to God.
It's probably, we're looking, maybe not 1,750 years from now when I belong to Temple Beth Kanye or
Is there an example of one?
Emmanuel A. Yay? What?
Is there an example of one Jewish person that's like, oh, Kanye actually, the scales fell from my eyes?
We should, if you know of anybody, folks,
Yeah.
please
a
have
Christian.
them
Have them call him on
Kanye
Friday.
Yep. Have them call in, and
Kanye
we will
convert.
be glad to talk to them. And Godspeed, Ian. I hope things are okay.
Yeah.
Take a extended Christmas break, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's time for vacation.